Hello and welcome back to Normal Island. I'm of course Curtis Daly and I'm joined by the one and only Ben McLean. Ben, how are you doing?
I am not doing too badly. That was a complete lie. It's been an
Ah,
awful day, but it's fine because I'm here with you, and that
mm.
that makes it all better. Um,
Oh, that's such a
no,
nice thing to say. I love
I
that.
know, I know.
Yeah.
I'm really good at lying. Um,
Hear
uh,
that, folks? He's
no,
lying.
no, no. It's really
Hmm.
good. Also, I love before the show. Me and Curtis will like talk tech, and I love that bit because we'll be like trying to work out how we can improve the show for you guys.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
we're always doing that. There's always ways to try and improve it. I will note today that we don't have a producer. There's been a slight issue with that. So Ben is both co-host, guesting, and producing, and I feel like that this is a way to plug the show. So, or not the show, our Patreon.
exactly.
Basically, we do rely on individual donations and YouTube ad revenue, but the YouTube ad revenue is pretty pathetic. So, if you wanted to support us, you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. You can support us on Patreon, which is a monthly thing, or there's a one-time sort of, I think it's called Coffee or Ko-Fi even, and that's a one-off donation. Of course, you've got super chats and YouTube membership because we want to get to a point where this is a full-time media organization where we don't have our full-time jobs being the main priority because we've got obligations to make. So once we go full-time, we'll be having shows every single day. This will be our focus and priority. So I thought, you know what, we'll use that to plug our Patreon. But let's get on with the show and let's get into the stories. We've got another big show, 4 stories again. This is what we've got coming up for you tonight. Wes Streeting is planning to be the next Labour PM, potentially. A Labour councillor defects to reform. Donald Trump is the first leader to visit the UK twice. And the UN officially declares Israel is committing a genocide. Now, of course, if you're not currently a subscriber, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Like the stream, as it helps with the algorithm. And, of course, we'll be getting to comments at the end. But on to our first story. So Wes Streeting has come out and said that we must tackle the rise of racism and homophobia after over 100,000 people turned up to the Tommy Robinson March on Saturday. We must tackle rising tide of racism and homophobia, claiming to be free speech, says Streeting. Called it laughable that rising racism and homophobia is a sign of free speech in a strongly worded intervention, suggesting Labour needed to step up its defence of minorities. He said the scenes of far-right protests over the weekend were not the kind of country any of us want to live in. I'm sorry, but this seems like a cynical attempt to kickstart a leadership challenge against Keir Starmer. Streeting has continually thrown minorities under the bus, yet suddenly he's concerned about them now. There has been rising speculation about whether Keir Starmer will even go beyond next May. Starmer will be ousted after May elections, Labour MP predicts. Richard Burgon says it is inevitable that Prime Minister will have to go if party performs as badly in 2026 local elections as polling suggests. Now, many other Labour MPs have briefed to the press saying that Starmer doesn't have long. But it's been a particularly disastrous week for Starmer after he sacked Peter Mandelson. Leaked messages showed that Mandelson consoled with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein even after his conviction. And this was just days after Starmer praised Mandelson at PMQs. Further polling has shown that fortunes for Labour are going from bad to worse. The latest favourability of the government has them at a whopping minus 71%. Ouch. Another poll from the Senev elections has a complete Labour wipeout. It's really not good for them. So I think it's clear that Streeting wants to appear to care about social issues in order to woo the membership. Then we can expect a Keir Starmer-style pivot, tack left when seeking membership votes, and then abandon your principles when elected. But the thing is, the membership won't fall for it for a second time. Ben, do you think this recent intervention means Streeting is looking to oust Starmer?
Yeah, I think there's a high likelihood that you're right on this one. And ever since the election of Keir Starmer, we need to bear in mind never to trust the Labour right again. Just do not trust them. Because they are clearly willing to just lie straight to your face, and it doesn't matter because you're left wing, so your voice doesn't like count in the electoral calculus. You've got to remember, it wasn't too long ago that Wes Streeting, and when I say it wasn't too long ago, I mean I think it was last week. I think around the 9th of September, Wes Streeting was going on TV and saying, we've deported more than anybody else. We're bragging basically about Yvette Cooper's deportation numbers from when she was moved from the home office to the foreign office, basically defending her record and saying, "Oh, we've deported loads of people, and we need to be tougher on refugees. We need to be tougher on migration. I think rather than refugees, but in practice that means being tougher on refugees because they're the easiest group to bully and berate, and the easiest group for the Labour right to sort of get away with attacking." Um, I do also think it's significant that now it's homophobia. It's a problem because, of course, Wes Streeting himself is a gay man. Now it affects him and his family personally. I think it's a bit like, well, I don't trust his motives overall. But I also think that if you only see the problem when it starts to knock on your door, um, I think that you don't really have a moral bone to stand on. Um, uh, at the rally, I believe somebody was saying, one of the speakers was saying that Christianity should be the only accepted religion, and of course they're talking about a very conservative form of Christianity, which wouldn't be accepting of gay people. Um, by the way, like a complete minority view in this country, the country overwhelmingly is secular and supports secularism. Um, and I don't even think that the 100,000 gathered in London really support that. But it's interesting to me what the red flags are to Wes Streeting, and how they come up, really.
Um, I mean, I want to ask about Starmer actually. We can speak about Streeting in a second,
Mm.
but do you think Starmer will even make it to the local elections?
I think I'm not as skeptical as that Labour MP, and the voices inside the Labour Party at the moment that are saying that he won't make it to the local elections, or might even make it beyond the local elections, because I think the problem is with replacing Keir Starmer at the moment is that Keir Starmer is the only is one of their only good options. They're encountering in 1 year what it took the Tories like 15 years to encounter, and that's the problem. That when you like feed into your worst elements and you throw um, red meat to right wing voters constantly, you end up with a team around you that is just increasingly made up of like horrible bastards. Like there's no other way of putting it. Like really horrible people, and people who are really unappealing to the public. You've got to bear in mind that like Wes Streeting, yeah, he's popular among the PLP, but outside of the PLP, people don't really like him. He's not that much more popular than Starmer, and Starmer is not that much more popular than rabies at the moment. Like, I really can't see a situation where they've got somebody who's ready to replace Wes Streeting. But you've also got to consider what's gone on this week as well. Um, Starmer apparently was caught, according to the Mail on Sunday, was caught screaming at Morgan McSweeney about the scandals with Peter Mandelson, saying that you're supposed to protect him. And it's again this thing of if you surround yourself with awful people, yeah, you're going to end up in the shit because these awful people will do awful things to you. Like if you wanted principled politicians, frankly, Starmer, you should have had a better relationship with Jeremy Corbyn. This could all really have been very different, but instead you wanted to listen to a bastard like Morgan McSweeney. And so this is, it's very much a case of like you've built your bed and now you get to lie in it. Um, I think a lot of the sort of approach of these people, Morgan McSweeney, Wes Streeting, Keir Starmer, is that there's an agreement between the right and the left that you try to win over the centre, right? you try and win over the center ground, and by winning over the center, that is how you win politics. It all comes from like 2005 Tony Blair era politics, where what you do is you try and find that middle ground, and you wouldn't like appeal to your extreme base in any way, whether that's your extreme left, what they see as the extreme left, or your extreme right. You just like try and appeal to the centre, and you could be fairly certain that the Tories were going to play the same game, right? They'd soften their policies and throw in some left-wing policies. You'd soften your policies and throw in some right-wing policies, and therefore they'd be. And it just hasn't worked. And they're really confused because they won an election seemingly off the back of that principle, not understanding, of course, that the Conservatives collapsed. They didn't win the election. Labour didn't win the election. The Conservatives lost the election. And now they're extremely confused. They're trying to appeal to the right. And, of course, Nigel Farage, the new opposition, is not interested in trying to appeal to the left, or not nearly as much as he is with trying to just satisfy his base and control the narrative. That politics is just done differently in an age of populism and aesthetics. And Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting and the Labour figures, like the Democrats in the US, they're not ready for a populist world. And it's why we should be looking to figures like Zach Polanski, frankly.
I mean, I love this idea that Keir Starmer's shouting at Morgan McSweeney. If only we could see some fire and passion, but for issues that matter. But of course, that's Keir Starmer. I mean, I would like to just see some kind of emotion. Actually, I would love to see it be a fly on the wall and see that conversation. But we'll leave that there, and we'll go on to our next story of the evening. A Labour councillor has defected to Reform. Over the last couple of months, we have seen multiple Tory politicians quit the Conservative Party and join Reform, but this time it's Labour. Nigel Farage has secured his first Labour defector as a borough councillor, became the first to abandon Sir Keir Starmer's Party for Reform UK. In a significant shift, Mason Humberstone became the first Labour politician to jump ship to the insurgent right-wing party. Mr Humberstone was elected to represent Old Town Ward in Stevenage in May 2023 and is now the only Reform member sitting on the Labour-run authority. Now, why did Humberstone jump ship and join Reform? Well, according to him, this is why. I've battled with this decision for some time, but deep down I know it's the right call. It isn't ordinary, hard-working people in Stevenage and across our country who left Labour. Labour has left us. The party I joined is lost, without vision, mired in scandal, and too often speaking for a metropolitan elite rather than the people they're meant to serve. When policies harm the British people and weaken our democracy, I cannot, in good conscience, support them. As Stevenage's youngest councillor, I entered politics to serve with integrity and respect. Today, I now join a party that will put the British people and our great nation first. I feel proud to be part of this team and ready to get to work. Now, interestingly, he says that Labour too often speaks to the metropolitan elite. Humberstone was elected in 2023 under Keir Starmer. I mean, what did you expect? It's not like he was a lifelong member who saw the party sell out the working class. He joined when it was already an elitist party. And it's true, the party has lost their vision. It's true that it is mired in scandal. But Labour have been in bed with the liberal elites for decades. In fact, they're not even liberal anymore. Now, I don't blame him for leaving the party, but I think it's odd that he's left one party of the elites to join another. It turns out that Humberstone was the BAME officer for Organised Labour Students. This group was promoted by Labour to Win, the Blairite organisation. So he was on a slate backed by the very elites he was talking about. And for Reform to accept him, I mean, isn't this the sort of candidate they despise? Now, this next paragraph really shows how out of touch Labour are. His defection will also cause concern at Labour HQ, given that the demographic known informally as Stevenage Woman a socially conservative, non radical female voter who has backed the Conservatives in the past, has previously been on one of the key cohorts the party has chased in its efforts to build a broad electoral coalition. I mean, I'm not sure what a non radical female voter is supposed to mean, but in that profile, it says nothing about the Stevenage woman's material conditions. So, despite their efforts of trying to keep Conservative voters, it's not really working, is it? And I don't see how that's a broad coalition. We're just trying to vote. We're trying to chase Conservative voters who've left the Conservatives to reform, not about the left-wing voters they've lost. Ben, how significant do you think it is that Labour, they didn't care when it was losing support to the left? How do you think they're going to respond this time?
Yeah, I think this is going to make them double down, but they already held this belief. It's an a priori belief of Blairites that the way that you win politics, as I just said, is you appeal to the right. That is how you do politics. You just constantly appeal to your right, and you expect the people on the right to appeal to their left. They think that it's still the age of good chat politics. The age of like gentlemen's agreements, and it's not. And they're trying to make the world fit around that view rather than changing their strategy in order to fit the world that we actually live and exist in. I think this is a fundamental problem. And I do think it shows that most Blairites are like one broken heart away from being conservatives at all times. Um, but that's, yeah, to do with Humberston himself.
I mean, what do you make of Humberstone himself? I mean, look, he's not an older gentleman who had been a member their whole life, right? Look, let's be honest. There's been older people, and I'm not just saying it's just older people. That's I don't want to generalize, but typically older people within the Labour movement who feel like Labour's gone too woke. I know we debunk that, but that's the perception, right? And they're not particularly keen on higher immigration and feel like reform is sort of the party of the workers, right? But this is a young person who joined in 2023. Remember, that was under Keir Starmer he was elected under, right? He's a young man. He's not some sort of... Look, I don't know the guy personally. I don't know his entire politics. I can assume, based on the fact that he was on the slate from Labour to Win, which is probably like a Progress or Blairite sort of organisation, something that Reform absolutely hate. So I'm confused. This might not be... Maybe he's socially conservative, right? But this is a young guy, part of a Blairite faction. So what are your thoughts on that? That is not someone from a left-behind area who is susceptible to right-wing arguments on immigration and social issues, but is a young man of colour.
Yeah, I think that I think that his reasons for claiming that he defected don't make sense, right? I mean, what was the he says, battled with this decision for some time. I know it's the right call. Labour left us. I didn't leave Labour. All that stuff. That's just like it's generic waffle. Like it doesn't really make sense in the context of somebody moving to the right? Because Labour are trying to be reform light. So the idea that moving to the right is that the Labour Party left me, I didn't leave the Labour Party. It implies in some ways that the Labour Party are moving left, which is bizarre. He's talking about like the party being mired in scandal and speaking for an elite. But he's joined a party that is literally run by millionaires, backed by billionaires, backed by the tobacco industry, backed by big oil and gas companies. Like 90% of their donations between 2019 and 2023 came from oil and gas giants. The idea that reform is not the party of the elites is obviously ridiculous. And talking about the idea that Keir Starmer, I do think there's something to the idea that Keir Starmer's weakened our democracy, but the idea that Nigel Farage is the answer to that doesn't really make any sense. And he's talking about like integrity and respect, putting British people first, and sort of generic waffle. So what have you got at the end of that? You've got some like generic kind of patriotic sounding waffle that doesn't make sense to me as an explanation. But there's like an alternative explanation. I'm very interested in historiography, and of course Third Reich historiography. And one of the areas I'm interested in is the analysis of women, which is an understudied area altogether. Women in the Third Reich, and a lot of the questions that historians are asking are, despite the fact that things got like objectively worse for women every single step of the Nazi regime, lots of the women were like keen supporters of the Nazis, um, and the question is kind of why did that come about? Um, and often it's down to personal gripes, right? A woman who worked for somebody who whose ideology didn't fit with the party could get one up on on her opponents by aligning herself with Hitler and the Nazi movement. Now, how does this relate back to um, Mason Humberston and what's going on here? Well, Mason Humberston is a young black guy. He's a person of colour living in the UK, and the rise of Nigel Farage, the rise of reform, I'm sorry to say, it does not benefit him, and it does not benefit his community. More generally, like it won't benefit his family, because with this we see a rising tide of racism. Because like the rise of Nigel Farage, we've seen just this weekend, has been in tandem with the rise of Tommy Robinson. It's so untrue when Nigel Farage or Keir Starmer say, well, if you look at this more right wing person, by being right wing, I am dealing with the problem. No, you're just like legitimizing them. Keir Starmer just legitimizes Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage just legitimizes Tommy Robinson. There'll be someone to the right of Tommy Robinson, Paul Golding from Britain First or something, who he then legitimizes. Right? It just keeps going rightward. There's no you can't solve that problem. Um, and so it's this appeal to the right. It doesn't deal with the problem. It makes the problem worse, particularly for minorities. And of course, I almost said Mason Greenwood. Mason Humberston um, uh, fits into that category as somebody who is not going to benefit from this, but he might benefit on a personal level because, according to the BBC, the council leader, who is Labour, said that Humberston seems not to meet the attendance and punctuality expectations of the council leaders. I think, from the evidence that I can put together here, this is actually about a personal gripe between him and the council leaders. He was concerned that he was going to be disciplined by the party machinery and basically stepped out of line before they could and weaponized the right wing system, much like those women in Nazi Germany. I'm not saying it's morally equivalent, obviously. It's just the same basic stratagem of I'll deal with a gripe in personal life by doing a swing to the right that just makes no sense, but can be justified by some vague waffle about putting Britain first. I think that might genuinely be what it comes down to, is his gripes over attendance and punctuality with other members of the council. I know it seems like a kind of disappointing answer, but I think it does make sense.
No, I actually agree, because there's been a lot of Labour councillors and Labour Party figures that have come out and attacked him, right? And they said it's down to these reasons. So I fully buy into that. And I think someone who came through the sort of Blairite roots of the Labour Party, you can't convince me that a lot of them aren't grifters. I'm sorry to say. I can't prove it. I'm not saying that he is a grifter. But let's be honest, when it comes to the right-wing faction of the Labour Party, which, by the way, there's no factions anymore, it's just the Labour Party. But they are those that care more about power than they do care about principles. I mean, the group that backed them is literally called Labour to Win. That's the point of it. And I think part of it as well is jumping ship to reform where they could be successful in the future. I also expect what Ben was saying there, I completely agree. Labour are going to double down. And they're going to go, oh, I mean, he's been saying that Labour has been too metropolitan elite. We better go even more right-wing. They just think one more push to the right will fix it. And it won't. It won't. But I find it so ironic that when it's left-wing people leaving, they don't seem to care. But when it's right-wing people leaving, we've got to do something about it. It's exactly when elections are fought. When we say we need to pivot to the left because your party is seen as too right-wing, they'll say we need to get conservative voters. It's never the other way around, is it? Because the Labour Party, just like, I think, like the US Democrats, are now going to be far more worried about losing mainstream support and support from their corporate donors than winning. I personally believe that. We'll continue on because we have got another 2 stories to get through. But before we go on to our next story, I just want to say and remind our viewers that we are just 5 volunteers keeping this ship going. We do this around our full-time jobs, but our goal is to become full-time, meaning we can increase our content, be far more ambitious, and build a sustainable left-wing alternative. Now, your help has made so much of a difference already, from equipment. I mean, look at this already. This is upgraded so much. I can't say like it came all from the channel, no, but like it's nice to say that a part of it can contribute to this. But also when it comes to covering rallies, getting the train down, all that counts, doing interviews, your support means everything. So we rely on small donations. And if you want to be part of a media organization that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, because this is the big fight on our hands, by the way. There is a rising far right, but to me, the far right and the oligarchs are the same thing. So we need to destroy the oligarchs. Then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for just 99p. Thank you so much. Let's move on. In an unprecedented move, Donald Trump has arrived in the UK for the 2nd time. This is the first time in UK history that a foreign leader has been granted this honour twice. Now, this has divided many people. Some have attended a march to protest his arrival, whilst others, especially right-wing pundits, have praised this move. Many have attacked Sadiq Khan after he tweeted this. President Trump has fanned the flames of the far right, and now a toxic form of politics is spilling out onto our streets. These are dark times, but those who seek to divide us will not win. And Piers Morgan, he responded with his own tweet saying, "So tedious, predictable, and embarrassing from the Mayor of London to do this every time President Trump comes to town. He may get the likes he craves from the woke brigade, but I suspect a lot of Londoners would much prefer Trump to Khan tackling issues like crime in London." I can tell you the majority of Londoners do not want Trump over Khan when it comes to anything. Now, unlike you, who's a big friend of his, right, he's not popular. Like, globally, polling shows that he's severely disliked. In his own country, he's not popular despite the propaganda from Fox News and his team around him. But Piers Morgan, he's such an opportunist, right? He pretends he's a centrist. He calls himself a centrist, right? But he defends abuser like Trump because he's his friend, right? Defends Elon Musk because Elon Musk said, the left have the woke mind virus, just insane shit. And Piers Morgan's like, do you know what? He's right. This is insane stuff. No, I find it quite odd that opposing a man who has been found to have sexually assaulted multiple women, who has blocked the release of the Epstein files, right? Draw your own conclusions on why that's the case, is somehow woke. The right-wing media sphere has bolstered the far right, dressed it up as protecting women and girls, is fawning over a president who has forced himself onto women and girls, who was best mates with a paedophile, and I remind you, right, doesn't want the Epstein files released. Now, Starmer has taken a very friendly approach to Trump, with himself publicly claiming he likes Starmer. But so far, the UK has gained very little. On the hopes was for steel tariffs to be scrapped with the US, which now seems to have been shelved. Ministers were poised to finalise a deal this week that would have reduced Trump's tariffs on British steel to zero, according to government officials. Instead, ministers are seeking to agree a permanent guarantee that US tariffs on British steel will not go above 25%. Other countries face tariffs of 50% on their steel exports. But that deal has been put on ice hours before the US president's arrival in the UK in what steel industry figures privately described as a major blow. So much for swooning over him, I guess. Ben, Starmer is embroiled in the Peter Mandelson scandal, and Trump is linked to Jeffrey Epstein. How do the recent Mandelson revelations affect perceptions of this visit?
Yeah, well, I think to be honest, it has more effect at home because, of course, Trump wants to keep any talk of Jeffrey Epstein quiet. So he's not going to be going, well. I don't want to be associated with this and making a big stink about it. It's going to be how it's perceived at home, because it does have a big effect on Starmer domestically, and the fact that he's hanging out with another of Jeffrey Epstein's close friends. I mean, it's just not a good look. I do think that there are parallels here with how Biden and Netanyahu were getting on prior to the 2024 presidential election, right? The Biden uh, welcomed Netanyahu with open arms, despite everything that Netanyahu was doing, and despite the fact that Netanyahu was obviously going to screw him over in favor of Donald Trump. Like, I think Netanyahu actually went to Mar-a-Lago. Despite all of that, Biden insisted on being open and warm and friendly with um, Netanyahu, instead of telling Netanyahu to fuck off and to stop committing a genocide, and saving his own reputation in the process, potentially saving himself losing that election. And Keir Starmer has watched all that and learned nothing because he is now welcoming Donald Trump in. And Donald Trump is in a similar way to the way that Netanyahu was in talks with Trump. Trump is going to be in talks with Farage because he understands that Farage is probably going to be the next prime minister. And no doubt Trump and the people around him are going to help Farage get that position. So Starmer is embracing somebody who has a knife ready for his back. But Keir Starmer can't really do anything because all of the support he would have got from the woke brigade. By the way, when Piers Morgan says the woke brigade, he's appealing to Donald Trump and those same donors. I think it's worth saying that he's not trying to appeal to the British public with that. Um, when he's doing that, he's not like they're not yeah they're not gonna win over people who might actually fight for him. It's essentially just we don't know what else to do, so we're just going to keep punching left, whilst getting the begging bowl out, for the right in the desperate hope that they might eventually give us some crumbs of credibility, and they just won't. Like, Donald Trump will embarrass him time and time again. I don't understand why they want a deal with Donald Trump with regards to tariffs, and say like, oh, well, the tariffs won't go above 25%, because Donald Trump's deals, like Keir Starmer's deals, they're written in water. Like, his promises are literally written in water. Like, they'll drop that 25% limit as soon as it's convenient to them. The only way to handle the playground bully, and I've said this time and time again, and I do think that I'm being proven right. The only way to handle the playground bully is to punch them back and be clear that you are not to be fucked with. It's what Claudia Scheinbaum and Justin Trudeau did, and it was effective, because uh, Trump will get away with people, will bully people who he thinks he can get away with bullying. But if those people shove his face into the dirt and give him a good kicking, like, he won't pick on them. It's why he's like so like placid with Putin. Like, he's utterly impotent when it comes to dealing with China, but he's so ready to attack his allies who he knows won't do anything in response. He'll talk about like invading Canada, if he thinks that the Canadians won't fight back. And so I think the only approach to Trump that will work is like making clear that the best defense is like a good offense, and saying like, well, if you tariff us, we're gonna fucking tariff you back as well. Like we are serious, and we'll start talking to the European Union about doing deals with them instead. Play these two off against each other, um, because yeah, the current approach is ridiculous. I also wanted to say, by the way, that the Microsoft deal, it's going to bring very little benefit to the USA, and I do think it's part of a wider conversation that we need to be having about how we view our wealth in this country and things that benefit Britain as a whole. Because they're talking about like billions of pounds of investment. British people aren't going to see that billions of pounds of investment. Some rich British people are going to see it, but we're not one and the same just because we're British. Like, we've got more in common with poor Americans than we do with like the or poor French people who aren't getting this Microsoft deal. But it's going to benefit those poor French people as much as it's going to benefit us, because ultimately the investment in our country is like just an investment in the elites. I think any kind of investment which is an investment in our country really has to show returns for people on the ground, and that's what you want to see, in terms of good deals for British people, things that can be used to invest in local communities, and keep some of that wealth local. Like that would be good to see. But no, in terms of Trump's visit, I'm glad he's been met with gigantic pictures of Jeffrey Epstein projected on Windsor Castle. That's great. I love that. More of that, please. And keep humiliating him, keep being aggressive with him. But yeah, ultimately, Keir Starmer should have told him to fuck off a long time ago.
I certainly think you're right about, not cowing down to the bully. Now, Starmer's approach has been to be really, really nice with Trump. And what has he got? Trump says, I kind of like him. Keir Starmer is a liberal, but I like him. Like, that's all he's got. But when it comes to policy, the Microsoft deal won't benefit ordinary working class British people, but that's what these trade deals are designed to do. They're only there for corporations and big business. When it comes to steel, he's not even getting the tariffs removed like he wants to. And you bring up Claudia Sheinbaum, right? She's doing it perfectly. The amount of times that Trump U-turned on the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because he's someone who's weak inside, but comes across as strong. So Starmer being weak and trying to suck up to him clearly doesn't work. Okay, let's move on to our final story. The UN has officially declared that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. A new report says there are reasonable grounds to conclude that 4 or the 5 genocidal acts defined under international law have been carried out since the start of the war with Hamas in 2023, killing members of a group, causing them serious bodily harm and mental harm as well, deliberately inflicting conditions calculated to destroy the group, and preventing births. It cites statements by Israeli leaders and the pattern of conduct by Israeli forces as evidence of genocidal intent. Israel's foreign ministry said it categorically rejected the report, denouncing it as distorted and false. Of course Israel's going to claim it's not true. Of course. Now, Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, have joined the Greens, the SNP and Plaid Cymru in calling it a genocide.
Now we've seen this UN report, we've been looking at the International Association of Genocidal Scholars, we've been looking at Israeli organisations like B'Tselem. They have all said there's a genocide, and I say with them, there is a genocide. And I think, given President Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize, he should stop it. He can stop it. And one of the reasons I'm not going to the banquet tonight is not only I wouldn't get a chance to speak to President Trump, that's not how they work, but I wanted the media discussions over his state visit to focus on the fact that he has the power to stop it. He could ring up Netanyahu and demand a ceasefire, demand that the food gets in to those innocent Palestinians, and he could ring up the Qatari government and other Gulf states so they would put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages. He is a very powerful man. He's choosing not to use that power. And when a genocide is happening, that is quite appalling.
Even Ed Davy's calling it a genocide. I mean, pretty late. Took you long enough. I do think is kind of clever. I don't know if it's going to work, but probably won't work. Kind of clever to say, look, if you stop this, you'll get the Nobel Peace Prize you've always wanted to. Appeal to his selfish instinct. That's probably the only way it's going to do it. But I think shacking up to Israel is going to be far more powerful than that. So this leaves the Conservatives, Reform, and Labour to be the parties of genocide denial. Now, what's even worse for Labour is that it was only a couple of days ago David Lammy came out and said that Israel is not committing a genocide. Now, this was Starmer attacking independent MP Ayub Khan at the beginning of the year, denying the genocide. I think we've got a second video up there, potentially. There's no video. Okay. There's supposed to be another video there. It was of, I think, Starmer saying to Ayub Khan, I know what a genocide is. Well, clearly you don't, because your government is still saying it's not a genocide, and the UN have confirmed that it is. But let's be very clear. This is what the government is defending. I can't stop thinking about one sentence in today's UN report regarding Israel's genocide in Gaza. Israeli security forces shot at and killed civilians, including children who were holding makeshift white flags. Some children, including toddlers, were shot in the head by snipers. And whilst Israeli spokespeople have tried to attack the UN, people are no longer allowing their lives to continue. And I've just been told we don't have our final video, so I'm trying to explain it to you. In the video, this is at a UN convention, one of the Israeli spokespeople said that this is basically distorted and tried to blame anti-Semitism. And the UN spokesperson said, did you write your answer on ChatGPT? We're not believing your lies anymore. When the clips go out, we'll add the videos in afterwards. But it was a fantastic rebuttal. Ben, now the UN have officially ruled this is a genocide. What do you think the government will do in response? And if it's nothing, surely that would make it even easier to see arrest warrants against them.
Yeah, I think they'll freeze. I think that they don't really know what they're going to do, and there's too many issues going on domestically for them to be able to respond to this. So they'll just like follow the Trump regime into oblivion, and it's bad for them. But it just feels far off. Do you know what I mean? It feels like this is a problem for years and years down the line. They don't see it as a problem for now, and they'll probably feel pretty stupid when their words from earlier on in the history of this genocide are played back to them, and they go, well, the UN said it's a plausible genocide, but it hasn't said it's a genocide yet, turning from that to, well, like the UN could have got it wrong, and in our estimation, they have got it wrong. It's not officially a genocide. But now, of course, it is officially a genocide. But they'll just, they'll be claiming that the UN's got it wrong. And the problem is that, of course, the rules-based order of international law that Britain so depends upon as a country which doesn't have like big economic or political like power anymore. It's held in place mostly by institutions like the Commonwealth and the United Nations as their current structures. And when those structures, particularly the rules-based order ideas, start to fall apart, Britain won't benefit. And also, in terms of our international obligations, it's a really cowardly retreat from the things that will help us in the future as we experience the rise of China, as we experience the climate crisis. Regardless of what you think of these are things that require Britain to have like extraordinary soft power, and that includes moral power, but also be able to leverage institutions. And when it decides to back a genocide, you can't really claim that you're in a position to be able to take the moral high ground and hold any sway, because that sway, soft power is based a lot on your ability to persuade and influence. And Britain has been, Britain's soft power has taken a real hit over this. And a lot of countries are going to be looking at Britain and thinking, well, you got it wrong on the most documented genocide in history, like the most documented genocide, the most um, uh, documented, at least at the time, the most documented genocide that was broadcast live for years, literal years. We have been seeing like the maimed bodies of children, collecting their, walking around rubble, collecting the limbs of their parents in plastic bags. There's a poem by a Palestinian uh, um, a Palestinian poet. I actually forget their name, but it was at a protest I went to, and it was written from the perspective of the children, saying to the parents basically, please write your name on write our family name on each of my limbs in permanent marker, so that they can find the bits of my body and I can be buried with my siblings when our house inevitably gets or indeed tent inevitably gets struck, and you can find the bits of me, and bury what remains of your family. And I think, with that as the legacy, Britain, I mean, Britain's never going to be able to hold the moral high ground again if that's the legacy that you chose to ignore, and instead decided to back a genocidal regime. Your ability to be able to hold sway over the rules-based international order should be um, destroyed. Um, yeah, and I think particularly for this government, if not for Britain as a whole. Um, just on a slightly lighter note, because I realised that was all quite heavy. I did notice that Ed Davey made the same mistake that you did, Curtis, and referred to scholars of genocide as genocidal scholars. And I'll issue the same clarification that Lewis gave. These are not genocidal scholars. They're not scholars who are committing genocide. They are scholars of genocide. Uh, but yes, just that same mistake over again.
Well, maybe he did refer to genocidal scholars. I'm
Yeah,
joking.
maybe.
I'm joking.
Maybe he's referring to to Israeli scholars.
On Ed Davey though, I mean, it's such the liberal position, which is to wait until you can no longer deny it and say, okay, there's a genocide, because obviously he's doing it because of the UN, right?
Mm.
But I mean, this is the thing. Obviously, for us, it's a genocide. We've known it's a genocide for a long time. It's just common sense. It's just what you see. It's listening to. In fact, you don't even need to see the pictures and images of pictures and videos of Gazan children being killed. Just listen to the Israeli politicians themselves. Just listen to what they're saying. And of course, this government has tried to pussyfoot around for as long as possible, and they've relied on, well, it's not quite a genocide yet. There's no technical legal backing, because obviously the ICC and ICJ has said it's a plausible genocide. They were just being careful. Like, we could be like, it's a genocide. Now they're categorically saying it. So this puts Labour in a position where there's nothing they can do, because if they say, okay, it's a genocide, then people are going to say, well, why have you declined to call it a genocide for so long? But now because of one ruling, you're saying it. And obviously if they don't and continue down their path, we're like, you are literally breaking international law. Like, you're supporting. I mean, obviously, Israel has broken international law over and over again, but you're directly contradicting the UN here, especially for, once again, Keir Starmer, the former human rights lawyer. There's nothing they can do that will save them. And I say good because they fucking deserved it, right? I want there to be impossible decisions for this Labour government, because I want them brought down. In terms of what you're saying about our influence on the world and soft power, you're absolutely right. And partly that actually, I think, predates this genocide, because I think, there's a huge political global shift that's happening, moving away from the British Empire, moving away from US hegemony, and China is definitely a threat to that, which, to be honest, like, that's it needed to be tested. It needs to be changed, because the US and Britain, particularly US, have done so much damage for far too long. But the genocide just compounds that. And people are not ever going to listen to Britain ever again, and nor should they.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you were saying about Ed Davis. Such a typical liberal response to wait for the institution to and then I was thinking of like there's a book that me and Curtis have been reading. I won't tell you which book, but it refers to not Socrates, Aristotle's three modes of persuasion. There's three
Let's
ways.
see if people
basically,
can guess what book we're talking.
that
We
you
won't
can-
say it, but let's see if they can guess.
let's see. There's three ways that you can persuade somebody. You can use what's called logos, which is like logic. It comes from the same word. You can use pathos, which is the idea of like emotions, where we get the word empathy from. Or you can use the third one. I'm blanking on the third one.
Yes, I'm blanking on the third one too.
Um,
Pathos, logos.
um,
It's not
pathos,
it's not philosophy for dummies, Jamie.
logos.
Although that'd be a good guess on it.
It's pathos, logos, and ethos. Ethos is the third one.
That is the one.
I
Yeah.
just looked at it because I had it in my notes. Now, I've got a theory actually that the right wing uses primarily pathos. They primarily base all of their arguments in emotion. Think about the way this relates to Israel-Palestine. The right's primary approach is, well, do you condemn Hamas? It's all emotional appeal. Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn October 7th? It's all about like just this pure emotional appeal, no looking at the facts and the logic. The left has the tendency to do too much of the opposite. It tends to go to the facts and the logic and forget the emotional appeal, right? But then you've got this interesting center with the liberals where they do the ethos thing. And the ethos, sorry, I don't think I explained what ethos is. So ethos is essentially an appeal to your credibility or the credibility of your sources being the sensibles in the room, right? That's
It's
ethos.
the appeal to authority, but that's the argument which the right wing they use that line. Oh, you're just appealing to authority, and I think it's a very good counter argument because you'll say, well, a bunch of doctors said this and they said that, and say, but you're just appealing to authority. And of course, like appealing to authority has obviously its merits, of course, but that's already they have weaponized that, haven't they?
The appeal to authority fallacy typically is only a fallacy when the authority is not relevant to the the topic, right? Because otherwise it's just a citation. Like if I said that I don't know, for example, the genocide in Gaza is a genocide because David Attenborough says so. You'd be what? Like David Attenborough, like I agree, but like that, you know, that you're citing an expert in something
that actually
expertise isn't relevant to the.
Do you know what that reminds me? Because first of all, the right wing do use that against saleable authority. I mean, say no, like doctors say this, and we're talking about healthcare, right? But often they use that example, and it brought up something really funny. It was when I was on GB News with Nana Akir, and I was talking about there's a genocide. She's like, there's not a genocide. I was like, wow, scholars, not genocidal scholars, but scholars who are experts in genocide, said they are, including Israeli scholars, multiple human rights organizations, ICC, ICJ, whatever. I cited all these institutions which know what they're talking about. And she said that, I can't remember, Uri Geller. She goes, well, Uri Geller was on this show and he's Jewish. And he said there's no genocide. I was like, what, the guy that fucking bends spoons? I'm sorry, but...
That's really funny.
I'm sorry, but that's your appeal to authority. Uri Geller. Sorry.
Yes.
I forget, Amnesty, you're wrong. Sorry, because Spoon Man, right, said so. He said so.
Good.
And I think that, because that makes me think of The Matrix where they bend a spoon. And it's like, no, you're bending reality. Because it's true. You are bending reality by denying a genocide. I thought that was just really funny. And it made me think of that example. I was like, fuck, Uri Geller. Oh my God, my entire life. I must be wrong. So...
So it's exactly the kind of like not being able to tell when something is an appeal to authority and when it's an appeal to authority fallacy. The difference between that and citing scholars of genocide, right? That's a different thing. Yeah, but like, so you've got these three modes of argument. Essentially, you've got the left who do too much of the logos. You've got the right who do too much of the pathos. Everything is an emotional appeal, and that, by the way, is the first hurdle that you have to get in order to get anybody listening to you. You have to appeal to their emotions, otherwise it's all facts and figures. You're Captain Spock, no one's paying attention to you. It doesn't matter what you say. You can provide as many facts and figures as you like. If you're not appealing to people's emotions, you're not bridging the gap. So that is important. But yeah, the left, too many facts and figures, the right, too much emotion, and then the liberals try to appeal too much to the sensible center ground, and and try and be the adults in the room, by just appealing to institutions, regardless of whether the facts don't fit with that or people's emotional reaction doesn't fit with that. And I honestly think that framework can explain our entire political spectrum at the moment.
100%.
I really think it does, because you're in the situation where Starmer is part of this sensible centrists, the same as Ed Davey, who they appeal to the way things have the way things have been, and they just sort of like try and hit a dead center in the political spectrum. They don't understand feeling, and they also won't appeal to fact. So it's all it's all structured in terms of that, and that's why part of why they're losing people. But at the same time, the left is having little success because we're not hitting people in the fields, and that is something we need to be doing.
Certain examples where the left can succeed is the populism side. Like I still think the 2017 election campaign, for the many, not the few, was really good. I actually, because Zach Plansky is obviously tapping into that with the eco-populism, and I saw a tweet from Paul something. He's like a blue Labour kind of guy. I can't remember his last name actually.
Paul Embry.
Paul Embry, yes, thank you. And he said that because I know, because Zach Plansky goes, the only boats you need to worry about are the super yachts, right? It's not small boats, it's super yachts, right? Don't worry about people are trying to use immigration, but actually it's the elites. And yes, okay, it's very simplistic because that's what political messaging is. And Paul Emmer was like, this is why Zach Polanski isn't serious, because he's trying to give a simple answer. It's not immigrants, it's the rich. And I'm just thinking, Paul, this is what political messaging is. That's why you don't understand it. The Reform are successful because they say, you stubbed your toe? Blame immigration, right? You got a sunburn? Blame immigration. Like, can't get a doctor's appointment? Blame immigration. It's not correct, right? But it's true for people who feel it. Now, obviously, Zach Polanski's don't worry about the small boats, worry about the yachts. That is at least based in truth. And of course, there are certain nuances when it comes to immigration, right? But you have 30 seconds on a panel show or whatever, right? You're not going to be like, right, well, there are certain communities that are impacted by immigration. That's why we need the Migrant Impact Fund. Like you don't say that. You just say these people are charlatans. Blame the rich. And I just thought this is why types like him are not successful, because they do not understand storytelling. I think we've gone on long enough about storytelling, because I think we've waited for people because they want to get to the comment section. So let's bring up the comment section, which again, there's no producer because it's kind of be me and you. So
yeah, do you want to bring them up? Or
I can bring them up. We'll start with the super chats though. Rachel Atwood always comes out. Can the Tower of London reopen just for Trump?
Yeah, I think that might be good.
Draw up some plans for it.
Yes, yeah. I won't say what I want to say.
Yeah. Rachel again said centrist New York Governor Kathy Hochul, fuck, I don't know, endorsed Mandami.
I think. Yeah.
Hochul, and it was funny because she was then plastered all over New York Times as being like a comrade. She's just a centrist. But I think the point here is that like you can get the center ground to move wherever you want. They'll move to the right, they'll move to the left. Obviously they resist moving to the left far more.
Yeah, it's wherever they think the
dial.
The dial is moving. Yeah. And that's why you have to use the logos and pathos to move the ethos.
Steve Ford's gifted 5 turn left memberships. Thank you so much for that. But let's get to the comments. I don't know if they're in any particular order, if I'm honest.
We'll figure them out.
Zeke the Beast. With coffee, do you get all the donation? Because I know Google get their cuts. I needed a new space to donate. I don't really know. I do know, like, memberships and super chats are massively, like, there's a huge cut from YouTube. I'm fairly sure that there isn't a cut from coffee or Patreon, because it looks like when I see the donations and then when it goes into our account, it looks roughly the same. So yeah, don't quote me on that. Carl says, support turn left. Remember, you don't actually need both kidneys. True, you don't.
Yes, exactly.
So if anyone's got a spare kidney they want to sell and give us money, it's for the socialist cause, right? That's socialism.
If Keir Starmer can live without a spine, you can live without a kidney. Donate to the cause.
Ooh. Very good.
Right.
Very good. Flow Snake. Curtis, you took the words right out of my mouth from under my fingertips. Wesley is launching his leadership campaign. I think it's probably true. I mean, look, at least he's been thinking about it for about a year. I mean, to be fair, he's probably been thinking about it for about 5 years. But I do think, though, when it comes to local elections, if Labour do bad, Starmer is going to go. He has to go.
I wonder if they'll have anyone to replace him with. I think that's the issue they're going to run into, because whether West Street might even choose not to stand if there's a leadership election and he feels like it's a poisoned chalice, he might go, now's not the right moment. But then it will leave because I think Morgan McSweeney and Wes Streeting's ideal for replacing Keir Starmer is that Wes Streeting gets to come in and save the day. But if it looks like everything is going really, really badly, they might decide, you know what, I don't think I can come in and save this one. I think this is just going to be like when Rishi Sunak came in and saved the day from Liz Truss. It's like, that's not going particularly well.
I mean, Wes Streeting will have to move seats. There's no way. I mean, if he doesn't run for leader, I'd be very surprised if he stays in. Where is his seat?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's not South Islington, is it? That's Emily Thornberry.
No, it's the same one as Leanne Mohammed.
It's Leanne Mohammed's seat.
Challenging him.
Who knows? Does anyone know? Can you tell us? I forget which constituency he's actually in. Streeting. Ilford North, that's it. Ilford North, because Ilford South used to be from a so-called Corbynite, I think he got. Yeah. So there's no way he's going to contest that seat next election because he's within 500 votes of losing, especially if he's going to run for leader. But I mean, I would love him to lose a seat, but even if he tries and fights another seat, it just shows that they're running away and they're scared, which is still nice to see. That's Specs says 500 votes. The Mandelson shit has killed his premiership. So do you think that had it not gone down for the Mandelson stuff, Keir Starmer could have survived the full 5 years? I mean, look, he still could technically. I just don't think he will. But I feel like we've been having this conversation quite a lot. I feel like we've been questioning whether he could last the 5 years way before the Mandelson stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on that one. I think, Keir Starmer has been unpopular for a lot of reasons. But yeah, the primary reason, I think, or one of the biggest ones, is if you can't understand how important a base is to a body politic, having and appeasing your base and getting them energized and motivated, rather than cutting them off and trying to appeal to the other side, then you're not going to be able to, just on the meta level, you're not going to be able to succeed. It doesn't really matter what your individual policies are or what paedophiles friends you happen to have hung out with and happen to have appointed. You need to understand the basic level first. Otherwise you're never going to get it right.
I found it really funny when it was during the general election when Jeremy Corbyn announced he was going to stand as an independent, and obviously the Labour candidate was Praful Nagant. He was a big sort of private healthcare lobbyist, or he literally had, or his family had, healthcare companies. He was just the health insurance guy. Terrible politician, by the way. And they sent Peter Mandelson down there to make sure that Jeremy Corbyn would lose. Peter Mandelson hates Jeremy Corbyn. When he was Labour leader, Mandelson literally said, I'm going to Every single day, I try to find a new way to undermine Jeremy Corbyn, the elected leader, by the way. So it was very, very nice when Praful Nagan lost, especially when Mandelson was sent down there. And I just think it's a double win now because Jeremy Corbyn has the last laugh twice because Mandelson is been outed as a paedophile defender. I mean, the emails literally say it. And I think Jeremy Corbyn brought this up again. He's like, he came to try and beat me. He tried getting Labour to beat me and he lost. So I find that really funny. Graham's sub with his comments has made me laugh. Imagine not knowing the constituencies of every Labour MP. Labour podcasting, if you ask me.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
Yeah,
so true. To be honest, I probably could only name you about 30 MPs, if I'm honest. There's hundreds of MPs. I have no clue who they are because they're so irrelevant. We have such a lack of talent in Parliament.
Yeah, I heard about one called, she's called something like Kemi something. I don't know. I don't think she's important.
No.
But yeah, some
not
obscure
not
MP.
like a leader. I doubt she's probably like some backbencher or something.
Yeah, some backbencher.
Or
I don't think she's very
party,
important.
Yeah, some party I've never heard of. And Adam Law said, "Fuck Khan. He wouldn't admit the genocide in Gaza." I mean, Sadiq Khan sucks, right? But I think I don't know about you, but do you get this reaction when we or the left criticize Labour? We're like, yeah, but when the right wing criticize Labour or like someone like Sadiq Khan, it gets my back up a little bit because it's like, oh, they're really, really woke and left wing. I'm like, hold on a second. So I do. I think like a lot of the critiques from Khan or the attacks, I think is simply because he's Muslim from the right.
Yeah,
wing. That is absolutely true.
correct.
That doesn't mean he doesn't suck. Like I think he's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. But when I see people like Piers Morgan or GB News attack Sadiq Khan, I'm like, well, hold on. No, we can attack him because we have legitimate criticisms, right? You guys can't attack him because you just fucking hate him.
Also, Zach Polanski was entirely right. Like just a few days ago, Zach Polanski called Sadiq Khan out in the London Assembly
He did.
for not using the term genocide when referring to Gaza and said, like you need to start using this term. And lo and behold, a few days later, I don't know if Zach Polanski planned that and was like, oh, they're coming to their decision on this day and they're probably going to say it's a genocide. So, because also, if they didn't, Zach Polanski wouldn't have lost anything there.
Oh, it was, yeah, 100%. I mean, it was good. But the Sadiq Khan's, you're just trying to get clicks. Well, you could just say it's a genocide.
Yeah, you could deal with this and just say it's a genocide and then I won't get the clicks. It's fine,
And this from Flow Snake's good. So Piers has gone back to shilling for genociders. This is the thing where he has moved his rhetoric, obviously, on Israel. He waited a year and a half, but now moves his rhetoric on it. Right? He's now actively attacking Israel. But to me, it's meaningless when you'll then defend someone like Trump or a load of right-wing people who still refuse to not just call it a genocide, but like even offer any sort of criticism or attack of Israel. So it's like, there's no point you going on your Piers Morgan show and saying, what Israel's doing is disgusting, and then defend politicians who are actively complicit in what Israel's doing. It's performative nonsense. And I think what Flowsnake is saying is absolutely true. Piers has gone back to shilling for genociders, even though he'll say on his show, I've had loads of pro-Palestine people. I criticize Israel all the time. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't mean nothing when you're still going to defend someone like Trump, who was best mates with a paedophile for 10 years, won't release the Epstein files because, and is complicit in the genocide. Then your words on your shitty show, which, by the way, has got worse and worse now, he just invites on, I know we're on YouTube, right, and this comment section is kind of a podcast, right? But, like, if you're someone like Piers Morgan who has... He's big, right? And he's getting on, like, small little podcasters who just shout over each other. Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I also think that if you've been embarrassed by having to admit that you were wrong about a genocidal regime, about the most documented genocide in history, I think maybe you should speak with a bit more consideration and a bit more modesty to the woke brigade. Who you've actually had to admit were right this whole time. I think maybe, a little bit of modesty, everybody needs a little bit of modesty. Piers Morgan needs a fucking industrial bucket load of modesty. Like, I just, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Autumn Leaves says common Claudia Scheinbaum win. Absolutely. She said, so it's official, Sir Keir Starmer is complicit in genocide. It's true.
Correct.
Literally true. And then time for Sir Keir Starmer to be charged. 100%. I would love to see charges being brought by the government. I think this is probably in reference to when you're talking about the book, right? Kurtz and Cog training for their fight with the right-wing world order.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We try and do a lot of reading around like the topics that we talk about.
It tends to help, doesn't it, Ben?
It does. It does.
Because a lot of mainstream pundits don't do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the context for Jimmy the Giant bringing up Lewis and Sneaker in Zach's recent podcast.
Yeah, because that's what Michael said. Yeah.
But I'm guessing that the context is the mainstream media don't do their fucking jobs with fact checking, and they need to. And it shouldn't be down to people like
it's
Lewis
the
and
center.
Sneaker
I think
to
it's the
do this
center of
stuff.
migration control, and it's the immigration stuff. I've not seen it either, partly because it started. Well, our show sort of overran, so we'll check that out. But that is cool though. Zach and Jimmy the Giant. I think it's shout out by Jimmy calling out our very own Lewis. So that's great. We had some guesses about what book we were reading, and Tic Tac says, "Is it Cat in the Hat?" Ben, is it Cat in the Hat?
It's not, but it's close. It's by the same author.
I don't think it is.
That was a lie.
Rachel said, "Art of the Deal."
Art of the Deal. Yes, it's Art of the Deal. Yeah.
Imagine using Donald Trump as a playbook. Using Donald Trump against him. Vicky Clee says Bridget Jones's Diaries.
Bridget Jones's Diaries.
I've seen the films, but I've not read any of the books, and I don't think I'll ever read the books.
There's a lot of reference to ancient Greek philosophical rhetoric in Bridget Jones's Diaries.
Have you read the books?
No, I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I don't think there is. Rachel, don't worry about the small boats, worry about the yachts is a great line. It is a great line, though, isn't it? It's political messaging.
Yeah.
You know, this is interesting, though. Andrina Websdale, Jeevanese got banned on Reddit.
That's interesting.
Probably because they were promoting some fucked up shit. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been by Jeevanese, but I can imagine the types of content and conversations were happening on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I dare say. I also probably think that's probably not a coincidence with the recent Tommy Robinson rally, of course, which they were
there probably would have been some insane posting on there.
Yeah.
And then Graham, last comment, Curtis will be on Piers Morgan's show any day and now then. I absolutely will go on there, though. Like, I'm fucking shameless. Like, I go on GB News, like, part of my soul, and yours, right? Part of our souls are missing by going on that shitty platform. So, yeah, if I'm going to go on GB News, I'm going to go on Piers Morgan. Absolutely. I want to call out these bastards.
Yeah, I think...
We need some more left-wing blood sport, don't we?
I do think, yeah. And it's part of this, like... It's not even part of the, like... logical kind of world of like, well, we'll or even like the legitimizing kind of world of like, well, we're legitimate if we go on their platform. It's the appeal to the emotional side of it, just showing up and just being like, no, I'm not actually frightened of your ideas. I can actually defend all of these ideas, and I'm actually willing to fight back. I'm willing to use ad homs. I'm willing to attack you. And be strong with it, and that's really important.
I think this is in reference to the shout out. These guys fact check and deep dive in an amazing way.
Right.
But I think that might be Lewis and Sneaker rather than us. But you know, let's hope let's hope that Jimmy does watch us. I mean, I would like to interview him. That's not happening though. I'm sorry, but it's not.
Yeah,
I feel like you would do that. You'd be up for it. I cannot. I'm sorry. Curtis Davis 20 gammons. It would be funny, but I just could not. Even just not on a because I think Jubilee it's not about debates. It's all just slot bullshit. But I think from a personal perspective, it will just piss me off. Dealing with 20 people who are just chatting utter shit. Yeah.
Yes. Or one person who chat's 20 people's worth of shit.
Oh, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. Let's leave that there. Thank you so much, Ben, for your incredible insights and last minute sort of producing as well.
Yes.
I think we did a pretty good job though, right?
Yeah, I think we pulled
Yeah.
it off. I guess that's for the chat to say, not really us, but you know,
Well,
I
true.
think we did
Yeah.
all right.
We'll big ourselves up, you know.
Yeah.
But thank you to all of our viewers who tuned in, and of course, again, thank you to Ben for joining me tonight. Remember to like the stream, and if you're not a subscriber, then please hit that button. If you want us to grow, then you can head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There is a link to our Patreon where you can support us monthly, or follow the other link to give us a one-time contribution. Alternatively, you can become a YouTube member for just 99p. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on Friday.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.